Hello everybody and welcome back to another Senate prediction. Today we are covering the Michigan Senate race between Republican challenger John James and Democratic incumbent Gary Peters. Without further ado, let's get right into the data, starting out with the latest 5 polls, an aggregate of the latest 5 polls conducted from June 15th to July 24th, 2020. They have Peters ahead by 8.8 points with 48.6% in his column to John James's 39.8%. So an average of these 5 polls conducted gives Gary Peters a 9-point edge in this Senate race in polling data. As for the JHK forecast, they have Peters at 9.5 points ahead with 53.9% in his column to John James's 44.4%. As for the Hour Progress forecast, the second forecast we can use to predict Senate races, they have Gary Peters ahead by a more conservative 6 points, 51.3% in his column to John James's 45.3%. As for the data consensus, so this is now all of the data that you just saw combined and averaged out, gives Gary Peters an 8-point advantage, 51.3% in his column to John James's 43.2%. And finally, the final data to look at is the 2018 Senate race in the state of Michigan between Democratic incumbent Debbie Stabenow and John James. John James ran an unsuccessful campaign, however a promising campaign in the state of Michigan in these 2018 midterms, where Debbie Stabenow defeated him by 275,000 votes, 52.26% in her column, to John James's 45.76%. So John James is considered to be a rising star in the Republican Party with a lot of promise. However, if he doesn't win this comeback here in the state of Michigan, it's very unlikely that we see him run again for any statewide elected office in the state of Michigan for the foreseeable future. So this could really be his final shot here against Gary Peters. And with that, the polls have now closed in the state of Michigan, and we have a key race alert coming in right now. 18% of the precincts are reporting across the state of Michigan, and Gary Peters holds an 162,000 vote edge. Very early nonetheless, 57.68% in his column to John James's 39.87%. John James is going to have to hope for a major closing of this gap here in the coming hours. We now have 62% of the vote in, and the gap has closed a little bit, but not nearly enough, with Gary Peters maintaining a 267,000 vote edge and 53.29% of the vote in his column to John James's 44.77%. This is a margin of a little under 9 points in the state of Michigan so far. And with 87% of the vote in, the gap has narrowed even more. However, time is running out for John James and his campaign. With 206,000 votes, that is the margin of lead for Gary Peters. That is the margin that John James would have to overcome here tonight, with just 13% of the vote still out there left to be called. 51.04% in Gary Peters' column to John James's 46.35% as things stand right now. We can project that Gary Peters, the Democratic incumbent, will win re-election to another term in the U.S. Senate. The Democratic incumbent Gary Peters will hold on to his seat in Michigan. This is a Democratic hold, and a big one at that. He wins with 51.58% of the vote to John James's 46.24%. We can project this race in favor of Gary Peters with 98% of the vote in. He wins by 270,000 votes over John James' 2,614,299 votes in his column to John James's 2,343,644. This race is called in favor of the Democrats. As we take a look at the county map, in the largest 8 counties across the state of Michigan, Gary Peters won in 6 of them. He won in Wayne, Oakland, and Kent, as well as Genesee, Washtenaw, and Ingham County, while John James wins in Macomb County and in Ottawa County. As you take a good look at the Michigan county map across the state, John James did a lot better in the more rural and conservative areas, while Gary Peters ran up the score in the more urban areas. This brings Gary Peters up to 51.6% of the vote to John James's 46.2%, with all of the vote now reporting in the state of Michigan. And that about does it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this Michigan Senate prediction. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you have not already, as well as check out all of the other Senate predictions and presidential election predictions on the channel. Tune in next time.